except for Sakhi. And not all Rasva Ikaranta, Rasva Ukaranta words, the remaining ones. What do we mean by the remaining? Those which did not receive the Nadi Savya. So the Rasva Ikaranta, Rasva Ukaranta words which did not, I hope the screen is visible. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So the Rasva Ikaranta, Rasva Ukaranta, non-Nadi Savya words receive the Ghi Savya. And we studied that. And then we took up Sakhi as well as an exception. The next sutra then gives the Ghi Savya to the word Pati. Pati hi samase eva, but only in a samas. So if Pati is not in a samas, it does not receive the Ghi Savya. If Pati is in the samas, it receives the Ghi Savya. And so, first let us see the word Pati in the samas and see its declension. We will compare it with, let us say, Hari, because Hari also received the Ghi Savya. And we will quickly read the word Hari. There's no need to read the entire table. We have to read those forms where the karyas are dependent on the Ghi Savya. And we had Tritiya Ekvachana, Ango Nastriya, then Herangiti, which resulted in a guna of Haraye, Hare He, Hare He. And then, of course, Acha Ghe He in Saptami Ekvachana, which gave us the form Harau. There were other new sutras as well for Hari. For example, Jasi Cha, which gave us Harayaha. But that was not dependent on the Ghi Savya. So right now we want to concentrate on the Ghi Savya and what difference does it make. So when we come to Pati in a compound, we can see the Ekvachana forms from Tritiya to Saptami, and you will see that it is exactly like Hari. Of course, I'm not considering the Anatva over here. Hari has the Anatva, uh, Pati or Bhupati will not have the Anatva. So that is fine. But you see, Harina, Bhupatina, Haraye, Bhupataye, we have Ganapataye Namaha, very popular. Harehe, Bhupatehe, Harehe, Bhupatehe, Harau, Bhupatau. And Pati receives the Ghi Samya. If it receives the Ghi Samya, the table is going to be the same. You have Ganapati, Sripati. But now look at Pati which is not in the compound. And that does not receive the Ghi Samya. If it does not receive the Ghi Samya, what else did not receive the Ghi Samya? The word Sakhi. And so the Pati table will resemble the Sakhi table. And you had Sakhya, you have Patya, Sakhye, Patye, Sakhyuhu, Patyuhu, Sakhyuhu, Patyuhu, Sakhyau by the sutra out, and Patyau. However, we have to be careful over here. When I said that the Pati table follows the Sakhi table, I was only referring to the Tritiya to Saptami Ekvachana forms which were dependent on the Ghi Samya. We have seen that there were specific sutras for Sakhi wherein the first five forms were Sakha, Sakhayau, Sakhayah, Sakhayam, Sakhayau. Now their Pati is not going to follow Sakhi because they were specific sutras for Sakhi. And over here, It will follow a Rasva Ikaranta pulling word, whether you compare it with Hari, whether you compare it with Bhupati. In fact, there is no difference between Bhupati and Pati because the differentiating factor is not present over here. So if I were to illustrate this, I don't know how much I will be able to simplify it, but we'll try. Let us say I have a Hari table which gives me some specific forms, Tritiya to Panchami, because it receives the Ghee Samya. Then, when I talk of Pati in a compound, there too I will have the same kind of forms. Sorry, Sakhi. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just. What I meant to say is, and then I have Sakhi, which follows a non-ghee, and I'm just changing the color. Let it be. Pati in a compound. That too receives a non-ghee. And so you will have the same thing over here for Pati, non-ghee. And uh, for the first five, Pati actually resembles Hari. So here you saw the green and blue overlap. Here you saw the red and blue overlap. We are trying to see how the word Pati, blue, overlaps. And how do you get the final table of Pati? So where does the blue overlap? Wait, I think I wrote something. Pati, please excuse me. Pati in the Samas. Pati not in the Samas. Not in the Samas. That is the blue. Pati not in the Samas is a non-ghee. not in the summers. If Pati is in the summers, then it's the same thing over here. Because the red is for the ghee. Now it's correct. Simply, you have to simply take up these two sutras, and I don't think this is going to simplify. This is going to simplify things. It is going to make it more complicated. What receives the ghee samya and what doesn't receive the ghee samya, and what receives the ghee samya will follow those rules. What doesn't receive the ghee samya will follow the other rules. And so you see that in a rasva ikaranta, I want to summarize one more thing. In a rasva ikaranta, the words not receiving a ghee samya are only two: Sakhi and Pati. Pati when not in a samas, simple Pati. And Sakhi, of course, there is a negation. And therefore, I want you all to write this, that the sutra out is applicable only to Sakhi and Pati. We used out for Sakhi, now we can use it for Pati. And this is for all ghee. So in case you just want to write along with Hari, you can also write Bhupati over here in case if you wish. Don't write the other words which we have not done. We have done Hari, Vishnu or Shambhu or Bhanu and Bhupati. So write what we have done. Don't write what we have not done. That we'll discuss later. Basically to all ghee samyaka shabdas. There is a kind of overlap which finally tries and solves. Although this is not there in the Laghu 1.4.9 because it's related to the Vedic Sanskrit, but no harm in seeing this. Patihi samasa eva shashti yuktas chandasi va. And so if the word pati occurs with a shashthyanta shabda, then optionally it will be a ghee. So there are some flexibility is given in the Vedic Sanskrit, but otherwise It's fine if you don't want to see it. There is Rama Raksha Stotram, which is a popular stotra text, and they have Sitayaha Pataye Namaha. So, of course, its analysis, there is some difference of opinion in its analysis, but if I were to keep it simple, Sitayaha Pataye. Now, you don't have Pataye in Chaturthi. You have Pataye only if it is in a compound. And so Sitayaha, now because Pati is occurring with a Shashtyanta Shabda, Pati singly as well can follow this table. And so you have Sitayaha Pataye Mama. And therefore Vedic Prayog, the stotras are all much later, but Chandasa Prayog, the flexibility which is there in Chandasa Prayog, when Panini made it, he was alluding only to the Vedic scriptures, but later on that flexibility was afforded to all scriptures. And so Stotra literature or some other kind of literature which comes up later, there also we can accept this kind of flexibility. Okay. The next word which Varadaraja takes, because he is dealing with Rasva Ikaranta words, next one which he takes is Kati. How many? And sometimes, and you will see this more and more now. Up till now, not so much, but you will see this more often. You need to know how a word has been derived. And this is difficult. We are going to study a lot next year as to how a word is derived, noun is derived. But even then, it is tricky because you need to know all the sutras, all the words. So it is tricky. But the point over here is that at least if someone is explaining to us, we should understand. And that will happen by next year. In this case, Kati is a Tadhita form which is derived from Kim and the affix Dati. You see that Dati over here. And then some Prakriya takes place and Kim plus Dati becomes Kati. Because Kati ends in Dati, it's a Datyanta, ends in the affix Dati. It receives two Savnyas. Both of these are Savnya Sutras. It receives two Savnyas. One is it receives the Samkhya Savnya. Samkhya is a Paninian Savnya. It is not your common noun, number, numeral. It is a Paninian Savnya. Bahu, Gana, Vatu, Dhati, Dantya. We don't want to study too much of this, but words having Bahu or Gana or Vatu or Dhati are labeled, designated Samkhya. So obviously Kati receives the Samkhya Savnya. It is not very relevant for us over here, but Varadaraja takes it up. What is relevant, more relevant for us, is the next Savnya, which is the Shat Savnya. That words ending in Dati receive the Shat Savnya. Shat is also a Paninian Savnya. So what you see, one, what you see are these two Savnya Sutras 23 and 25. And another 24 in between, which teaches the Shat Savnya. We'll do it now whenever it comes, we'll do it. Right now, Dati Cha is more relevant for us, not Bahugana, Vatu, Dati, Samkhya. That is not so relevant for us. But in any case, both these sutras 23 and 25 assign Savnyas to Datyanta Shabdas. What is the Samya we have received now? Shat. We must understand another concept in Paninian grammar, that he doesn't dabble into conventional meanings. He teaches us the derivational meanings because it is believed, and Patanjali also explains that conventional meanings are going to change with every generation. Some may remain the same, there may be add ons, etc. And so it becomes very difficult for a grammarian to decide on conventional meanings. In fact, the grammarian, uh, in order to make a grammar which is sustainable, has to avoid teaching us conventional meanings. And Panini therefore also gives us certain sutras, one of them being Tadashishyam, that there is no need to teach a shishya, no need to teach Savnya Pramana, so that no need to teach meanings, since these are known by convention. So let us say Shishtachara, or however we know understand the meanings of words. A corollary of this is also that whether a word is used in all vachanas or no is also decided by convention. Sometimes by meaning, sometimes by convention, both. Kati, whichever way you want to look at it, whether it is the meaning itself which is very evident or whether it is convention. In Kati, it is the derivational meaning itself which is very evident. How many? And so Kati is declined only in the plural. How many cannot be in the singular. How many? One. If you are saying how many, it has to be now in English two or more, but here three or more. And so we are going to check this table out only for the Bahuvachana. You are seeing over here Kati Nityam Bahuvachananta, and so it's just the Bahuvachana column is here written horizontally, and we will study it. Shadbhyo, look. Look is a kind of elision, and the next sutra teaches us this Savnya look, and then the sutras after that also dabble with what is happening with look and why this Savnya is given. So we'll go to that, and I will teach you all. But right now, let us take look as simply an elision, which it is, a darshanam, gone. And Shatbhya look tells us that after the Shat Savnyaka words, Kati is a Shat Savnyaka word. We saw the Sutra Daticha. After the Shat Samyaka words, the Jas and the Shas are related. Jas Shasoho comes by Anuvartana. And so if we begin with the Prakriya, Jas is related, Shats is related, and Kati is your final form. The next requires no new sutras. Varadaraja, I told you that there are some overlapping sutras, and when there are overlapping sutras, it is then left to the prejudice of that grammarian that which sutra is using. But generally, the thumb rule should be that you must use that sutra which has a narrower specification, because the sutra with a narrower specification is made specifically for this. The sutra with a broader specification may have uses elsewhere, and so it is a general sutra. The one with narrower specifications must be used. And we have seen a sutra as well, but it really also is, it depends on the grammarian. And Varadaraja for Kati Nam uses the same principle Nut, Nam, Nami, and Dirghatva, Kati Nam. We already studied the sutra, Rasvanadhyapun Nut. So he sees no need to teach us anything. Kati, Katibhi, Katibhyaha, Katinam, Katishu. For him, the table is done. However, after Rasvanadhyapun Nut is another sutra, Shat Chaturbhyascha, which also teaches the Nut when the arm follows. So everything is the same. But this sutra is specifically made for the Shats and something else. We are not studying that sutra right now, but it's also made for the Shat. And so you may find several books which use 7155 for Katina. We will study 7155 when we come to it. I would like to use 7155 because it's a more specific sutra made for the Shat words, Shat Saugnaka words. But Varadaraja at this time chooses not to do it. Fine, you'll see whatever you want to follow. And so that is your Kati table. The Kati table is done, but we have to study these two sutras. As far as Panini's meta language goes, they are extremely, we cannot emphasize enough, extremely important and therefore also quite complicated. We'll see what best we can do. After teaching us Adarshanam Lopaha, where it simply says that what is Lopa? Something which is not perceivable. If I have to summarize it that way, you what you can't perceive is Lopa. And so that leads to the elision of the word, and we translate Lopa as elision. However, when there is a question of Lopa, you have to ascertain what is the sthanin, substituendum. And for that, you have 52 to 55 to help you. Whether it is Antyadesha, so Antyalopa, Adilopa, Adehe Parasya. Most of the times it's Alo Antyasya. 99.9% of the times it's Alo Antyasya. But you have to, yes, sometimes we are told Upadhalopa, where the sthanin is given to you. So that is not covered in the Paribhasha. There are specific sthanin is given to you. That the penultimate should be elided. So when specific sthanins are given, you don't refer to any paribhasha. You simply see what has to be elided and you elide that. Good evening, Sunita ji. After Darshanam Lopa, so elision, let us take it as elision. Elision is also taught by three more samnyas. So Lopa is a samnya, three more samnyas. Look, shlu, and loop. And there are three reasons why Panini does this. The first is that when he wants everything to get elided, he uses these samnyas. Look, shlu, loop. And of course, everything in a pratyaya. So pratyayasya adarshanam. Look, shlu, loop. And therefore, when you are told that there should be a look, like we did for just us and shus us, we are not checking out whether it is going to be antyalopa, so the sakar is elided or the akar is elided. We are not checking that out. The whole vibhakti goes, it's gone. I removed the screen, but just shus. Whole vibhakti is gone. That is why you got kati. So that is reason number one, that he wants the entire pratyaya to go. So look, slow look is easier. See, sometimes the entire pratyaya goes with lop also. For example, the prathama ekvachana su has only one consonant, sakar. So lop is enough. There may be a loop, there may be a lop. But when the pratyaya has more than one varnas, then lopa is not enough. Then you need look, shlu, loop either. So this is one reason where the three identity samnyas are made to cover the entire pratyaya for elision. The second reason is that Panini uses samnyas for further karyas. Now I'll give you an analogy that there are, let us say, five, seven students, six students absent. Let us say two are absent because they are sick and so they will give me a medical certificate. Two have taken an earlier leave, some commitments, and two have simply missed the class. So while all six shall be marked absent, for my later karyas, I will say that those who have informed earlier shall not be penalized. Those who have a medical certificate, the leaves will not be counted in minimum attendance. And third, something else, that they'll be penalized, whatever. So I'm using samnyas to effect certain future karyas. And that is exactly what Panini wishes to do through look and shlu and loop. That later on he will tell us that if it is the look elision, in Hindi and Marathi, if you are reading the books, they will write it as look lopa. But don't get confused. If they write it as look lopa, it is not that it's getting dual savnya, look and lopa. Lopa is also a conventional word. You can open the dictionary and lopa also means gayabona, disappearing. So look lopa is very literally look elision. We can simply call it look, it's fine. Anyway, so he will use the look elision for some specific careers. He will use the slew elision for some specific careers. He will use the look elision for some other specific careers. And that is why there is a need for three. So Governing the direction of future careers becomes a second reason for making this sutra. The third reason is going to come in the Sutra 63, and so we will see that later. What is Varadaraja teaching us? Look, shlu, look, shabdaihi krutam pratyaya darshanam. So entire pratyaya. Kramat tat tat saumyam syat. And these are the saumyas. I have given you some provisionals also, but fine. The third provijana is left, and I'll come to that later. We now move on to the next sutra. Now pratyas being entirely elided, let us say a jas has gone away, shas has gone away. I may face certain issues, such as will I call kati a pada because suptingantam padam, and only a word which is a subanta can be called a pada. Now kati plus su, the su itself has gone. So can kati be called a subanta? This can also apply to the sambodhana of Rama. Can it be called a subanta? And later on for other words, vari, prathama, dvitiya, ekvachana, or ma, or mala, prathama, ekvachana. So this question arises for several words, and this is only the subanta, but it'll arise in tinganta as well, samasa, and so Panini comes up with this device of pratyalakshana. Pratyalakshana essentially means pratyaya lakshita karya. Tad ashrita karya, pratyaya ashrita karya. Ashrita, lakshita, doesn't matter. Pratyaya ashrita karya, tad ashrita karya. That the karya which is dependent on the pratyaya must happen even after the pratyaya is elided. Pratyaya lope, pratyaye lupte. Even after a pratyaya is elided, let the karya which had to happen because the pratyaya was present, let it happen. And so, Kati, regardless of the just being elided completely, of course through look, but that does not concern us at the moment, can still be called a pada by Suptingantam Padam. Because the Pratyaya Ashrita Karya, Subanta, to call something a pada, I have to depend on the Pratyaya, which is Su, or in this case Jas, which is one of the Sups. So the Karya, which is assigning the Pada Samya, will still happen by Pratyaya Lakshana. And that is what that sutra teaches. Pratyalope, Pratyalakshanam. Even after religion, let the karyas continue to happen. Karyas which were dependent on the pratyaya continue to happen. Pratyalope, Pratyalakshanam. And so I assign it the Padasavya. Perfect. But now, if Pratyaya Ashrita karyas have to happen, Then can I also apply jasicha, which will lead to a guna? And even after the elision of jas, I will not get kati because there will be a guna, and I may get kate, which I don't want. And here then comes our next sutra, that there should be no pratyaya lakshana for anga karyas. Na angasya. I'll explain the whole sutra later, but na angasya. Now, jasicha comes under the angati karya and therefore is an anga karya. And jasicha, because jas is not there, and and now because 1163 tells us that there can be no pratyaya lakshana as well. So there is elision, point number one, and there is no pratyaya lakshana, no question of guna, and kati remains as it is. So 1163 is the prohibition of pratyaya lakshana in anga karyas. But when does this prohibition apply? Of course, when there's elision, no? But elision can happen through lopa, through look, through shlu, through loop. Elision can happen in four ways. And this prohibition of 1163 is only for the lumat, na lumata. So only for those elisions which occur through the lumats. What are the lumats? That which has a lu is a lumat. And what has a lu? The look has a lu, the shlu has a lu, the loop has a lu. Only the lope doesn't have a lu. Lumata is the tritiya of lumat. Lumat comes with matup. No, buddhimat. Yes, matup, lumat. No, no lumata angasya. And now you have the third prayojana of 1161. The look, shlu, and loop were designed in order to prevent pratyaya lakshana. '61 is not difficult. 62 on a case to case basis is not so difficult. Na lumata angasya is tricky. Let's see. Over here, you can study it in the context of Jasicha and study 1163 as a prohibition, pratishedha to 1162. And see if you have any issues, we can discuss them next time. So Kati is done. And the next word then taken up is three. Three. Of course in masculine because we are in pulling. Any questions you can interrupt me in it. And what do we do with three? Three is not a sarvanama. We know that. The Sarvadigana does not have three. And Trayaha, like Hari, Harayaha, Trayaha, Harin, Trin, Tribhihi, Tribhyaha, Tribhyaha, Trishu. We can check the table. You follow the Hari table. See, this is also a classic case where if you want, you can assign the Ghee Sagnya to 3. No one is stopping you. But what will you do with it? Can you apply Angonastriya? No. Can you apply any other things? No. Because it is Nitya Bahuvachananta. You have a new sutra for the Shashti Bahuvachana, Trestrayah, and this will help you complete a small phrase where we know Ami Sarvanamnah Sut Sarvesham. When an arm follows, there is Sut. And here we are told when an arm follows, let 3 be replaced with Traya. Trestrayah. Trestrayah. When an arm follows. So this sutra has nothing to do with the augmentation. It just gives an adesha. The next sutra again is for augmentation, Rasva Nadhyapanut. That is also when arm follows. And the next one to augmentation. Next one also, but that is only Chandasa Prayo. So these are generally augmentation sutras. Then Noom comes. All these are augmentation sutras. All these. And within those even above Sut, you have augmentation sutras. And within those augmentation sutras, taking advantage of the army, he inserts an Adesha Sutra. So Panini, it is often seen, breaks the prakarana. He is dealing with something, some topic, some subtopic. He breaks it just to simplify or for the sake of brevity. Anyway, 3 is substituted with Traya. So now instead of 3, you have Traya. Then you can apply Rasva Nadhyapun note. Trayanam. Like Ramanam. Same. What is different is the replacement of 3 to Traya. Change of 3 to Traya. Now, why studying the Ashtadhyayi is important? Is because you can only have a Rupa Chandrika, a book of tables for so many words. And 3, because it is Nitya Bahuvachananta, does not have any table or forms for Ekvachana and Dvivachana, obviously. But what if you use 3 in a compound, in a Bahuvrihi? See the next word. Now, this is a thicker book, a more comprehensive book, and you have this table. But my point is that this thicker book also will not have all tables. I gave you all the example of Ekaranta last time. Do you find Ekaranta words? You don't find. So at all these times, you have to refer to Panini's sutras. Priya 3, the Pratipadika, this is not there in Laghu, but I'll just quickly glance through it. Priya 3 basically means someone who has 3 beloved. Let us say brothers, men, whatever. And that someone is a man. That's why in pulling. So a man who has three beloved, let us say brothers, Priya three. Now this someone is in singular, and if you have two such people, then dual, and three such people, then plural. And because three is coming at the end, you will now have to decline three in singular, dual, and plural, and you follow Panini's rules. At this time, you will have use of three receiving the ghi savnya, and so harina, haraye, harehe, harehe, harau. This is a typo. You need a haswa over here. This book has quite a few typos. You have to be alert. Anyway, we now go to dvi. Dvi is a sarvanam. It will be taken in dvivachana. And the sutra which is required here, tyadadi namaha. Tyadadi nam is in shashti, shashti bahuvachana, tyadadi nam. Aha, is the adesha. Aha, tyadadi namaha. What are the tyadadis? Within the sarvadigana I had mentioned that beginning with tyad, you have the tyadadigana, but only up to dvi. So tyad, tad, yad, etad, idam, adas, ek, dvi, till dvi. After that, there are four more. Yushma dasmat bhavatu kim. But there, then you don't need this sutra. We give separate sutras for Yushma, then Asmad. Bhavat, you don't need. Kim, separate sutra. So only up to dvi. Replace dvi with a. A. Tyadadi namaha. Words of the Tyadadi gana are replaced with a. When a vibhakti follows, you have the anuvartana of vibhaktau. So when any vibhakti follows, all 21, of course, all 21 for the Tyadadis. For the dvi, which is always in dual, you are only going to get 7. And so in all 7 cases, dvi is replaced with dva. See, simply put, you use aloantyasya, dvi becomes dva, and this is your changed pratipadika. Think of it that way. And then you decline an akaranta. And like sarva, I mean, three vachana, whether you take sarva or rama, the table is the same. But like sarva, you will have dvau, dvau, dvabhyam, supicha, dvabhyam, dvabhyam, dvayoho, osicha. And your table is done. So changing dvi to dva essentially changes an ikaranta to an akaranta and done. Titadi nam shashti bahuvachana. Aha. With this, the rasva ikaranta forms end, and you go to dirgha ikaranta forms. Sometimes it is taught like for akaranta, dirgha akaranta, striling only. But we saw Vishwapa. Similarly, for Dirgha Ikaranta, striling only. But Dirgha Ikaranta, there are many types of words. And here is where the complication will increase. We'll do something today, then we'll continue it next time. And because I conducted the lecture today, we'll have another one on Thursday. So please try to catch up before Thursday. At least what I'm going to take now, because it will be connected directly to what we're going to do on Thursday. And you see, Dirgha Ikaranta pulling Shabdas, which I have categorized into 11 types. And so essentially they follow 11 types of tables. We may not do all 11, but we'll do 7 or 8. So let's begin. First one will be simple. First is puppy. Just like Vishwapa, it is an Upapada Samas. Vishwapa, Vishwampati, protector of all world. Apihi. So Vishwapa you saw Dirgha Akaranta because of some derivational procedure. Papihi also has goes through a derivational procedure, but that is through an Unadi Sutra. We don't know what is an Unadi Sutra so far. We'll do it next year. It is a set of sutras. It's an appendix, additional 6, 700, 800 sutras, kind of an appendix to the Ashtadhyayi. We'll discuss that next year in detail. So some prakriya happens in the pa dhatu and then something else, and you arrive at papi. We don't go into the prakriya. Certain books may teach the prakriya to you, but we don't go into that. So how will I decline puppy? What is important for us to know, recognize over here is that the reason we are told that the dirgha ikaranta words are striling words is primarily because the three pratyas nip, nish, and nin after elision of its elision of anubandhas, what you are left with dirgha e, and it is this three pratyaya which governs the operations several times. We will have a look at it later. But Puppy has no such three pratyaya. Puppy is made from the pa dhatu, something happens, something else happens, something happens, and then you get puppy. So there is no stri pratyaya over here. It is also not a striling word. So you have to see two things, whether the word is a feminine word and whether the word ends in the feminine affix. Here, neither is the word a feminine word, this here. Don't draw the whole table. So neither is the word a feminine word, neither does it end, nor does it end in the stri affix. And so, which are the sutras which apply? Papihi, standard. Papim, Ami Purva, standard. Papya, eco energy. Because nothing else applies. It is neither a feminine word nor is it ending in a feminine affix. So nothing that applies. Papye, papya, papya, puppy. Because you have puppy and knee. Savarna dirgha. Puppy plus knee. Puppy. Eco energy. Papyoho, papyoho. Papyam. There's no augment. Why? Where did we study the augment Rasvan Adhyako note? Is puppy a Rasvanta? No. Is it a Nadi Saunyak word? We do not know what is a Nadi Saunyak word, but we'll see that soon. No. Does it end in the Ap Stri Pratyaya? No. So how will the note come? Eco energy. Everywhere eco energy. Papin, standard, Tasmat Shashuna, Pumsi. I have left out three words and we know what to do with it, but let us see the sequence. You had puppy plus ow, and we could have used eco energy. We will end up using eco energy, but before that, the process. That eco energy comes into play. After eco energy comes into play, Pratamayoho Purva Savarna, which is a stronger sutra, tries to defeat eco energy. But we know that Pratamayoho Purva Savarna itself is prohibited by Nadichi on the left. Papi is not having as its ending. So Nadichi cannot block Pratamayoho Purva Savarna. But Dirgha Jasicha tells that any Dirgha on the left, I have taken this up previously, any Dirgha on the left and Ich or Jas on the right. Ich or Jas on the right. And Dirgha Jasicha blocks Pratamayoho Purva Savarna and you go with, therefore you go with eco energy. So you see Dirgha Jasicha coming into play. Other than that, you simply follow. Of course, after Dirgha Jasicha, you have eco energy. So eco energy comes into play not only over here, but in all these places. I also wanted to juxtapose this with Prathamayoho Purva Savarna. Over here, it applies. Prathamayoho Purva Savarna applies. And after that, of course, Tasmat Chashona Pumsi. So there you have your word puppy, where you have Purva Savarna Dirgha blocked. And once it's blocked, then you go with Akara Savarna Dirgha, you go with equal energy, whatever is applicable, you go with it. So only finish this part of the table, and even within this, the two column headings may not be known to you, but we'll do it slowly. Just this, nothing more. Sorry, just this. We'll take a 5 minutes break and then we continue. Now comes the difficult part. Let us take a small break. Yes, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. The next one taken next word taken up in Lagu after puppy is Bahushreyasi. Again, the derivation of this word is quite tricky. Requires us to know several sutras, and not only sutra, it depends on the Vartika as well. But essentially, it is a Bahuvrihi compound. And like I gave you the example of previously, that Priya 3, one who has three beloved. Over here to Bahushreyasi means one, someone, some man who has three, however you look at it, illustrious women. Now, one who has three illustrious women. So, Shreyasi, woman, is obviously a striling word. And so, Shreyasi is going to end in a feminine affix. Here we take a slight detour and understand the Nadi Samya. You Striakhya Nadi. You, I have already given this vigraha before. You is Dirgha Ikaranta, Dirgha Ukaranta. Striakhya. Akhya over here denotes a Nitya striling word, that a word which is always in feminine. So it does not have to be only a striling word contextually, but a word which is always in feminine, regardless of context. Receives the Nadi Samya. So let us say a word like, such as Lakshmi or Gauri is always in feminine, regardless of context. And they receive the Nadi Samya because they are ending in Dirgha Ikaranta, Dirgha Ukaranta words. So simply put, such words such as Gauri, etc., receive the Nadi Samya. That is what this sutra teaches. But Bahu Shreyasi, because it is a Bahuvrihi, someone, one who is this someone could be a masculine, could be a feminine, or it could be some one family cooler. We don't go into neuter right now, but let us say it could be masculine or feminine. If it's masculine or feminine, it is obviously not Nitya Strilinga. And if it is not Nitya Strilinga, it cannot get the Nadi Samya. By use Striakhya Nadi. At this time, there is a Vartika in the Mahabhashya, which tells us that in a compound, check for the original gender, Prathama Linga. And the original gender of Shreyasi is that it is a Nitya Striling. Shreyasi cannot be in masculine or feminine. No, Nitya Striling. And so if the original gender is also Nitya Striling, even then it receives a Nadi Samya. And so Bahu Shreyasi, while it is a masculine word, some man who has three illustrious women, it still receives the Nadi Samya based on the Vartika. So I had written this English thing for your for your understanding when we studied puppy, but now we should not oversimplify it, and we must simply ask ourselves the question: is the word a Nadi word or not a Nadi word? The question is not whether it is a feminine word or not a feminine word. The question is whether it is a Nadi word or not a Nadi word. And the answer is yes, based on the Vartika, obviously. So you have a word which is having a Nadi Samya. You have a word which ends in a Stri Pratyaya. What will you do? If you do not wish to study Bahu Shreyasi, it is fine. But you have to study all the sutras which are going to follow. Because the sutras which are going to follow have to do with the Nadi word. And later on, when you go to the Striling section, you will have so many Nadi Samyaka words, such as Gauri, etc. And all those sutras are going to be there. In fact, when we begin Ajanta Striling, you will see that there are hardly any things you have to do in Ajanta Striling. You will finish it in one session or two sessions. Because everything which is there required for Ajanta Striling words is done in the Ajanta Pulling section. How? Because of such concoctions that you have Bahushreyasi, which is a pulling word, but which gets Nadi Samya. So Striling is going to come, we'll finish in two sessions probably. Napunsakling will finish in one session, or let us say another two sessions. It is pulling which is going to require maximum effort. And you have Nadi, Atascha we have done, or we'll do if you have not done. And then again Nadi. So don't leave out any sutras. You will have to study these sutras. Let's do this slowly. We will end with this word. Let's hope we finish it in half an hour. Bahushreyasi. We have studied a sutra. Hal nyabhyo dirghat sutisya pruttam hal, which tells us, if you remember the sutra, let me show it to you very quickly. The su after a halanta word which we use for sakhan is elided. Bahushreyasi is not a halanta word. By that time we saw hal ni, feminine affix, and a nyanta word. Even after a nyanta word, the su is elided. And so you apply the same sutra. Hal dirghat sutisya pruktam hal, and the su, the hull of su, which is essentially sakar, and that is elided.
Das.
And so you have
Coffee.
bahu
Tea. Oh.
shreyasi. You get your table. Nothing new, an old sutra. Can we use Pratamayoho Purva Savarnaha? No. Dirghat Jasicha will block it. And if Dirghat Jasicha is blocking it, you are back to eco energy. Shre Ya eco energy. Syau Dirghat Jasicha blocks it. Same like puppy. Ami Purvaha. Nothing new. Is Bahu Shreyasi a pulling word? And the answer is yes. Can I apply Tasmat Shashunah Pumsi? And the answer is yes. Shreyasin. So first, of course, Pratamayaho Purva Savarna, and then Tasmat Shashunah Pumsi. If you see Tasmat Shashunah Pumsi, it has to be preceded by Pratamayoho Purva Savarna, because that is what the Tasmat tells you. And over here, Bahushreya Si Bhyam, Eco Energy, Syoho, Bahushreya Si Bhi, Bahushreya Si Bhyah, Bahushreya Si Shu. Here also Eco Energy, Bahushreya. What else you will do? Ango na striyam, and that is for a ghee word. This is obviously not ghee, this is a nadi. Bahushreyasya. Shashti Bahuvachana. Rasva Nadyapo Nut. After Nadi, there is Nut. So you are actually using the same sutra. Everything is same. Bahu Shreyasi Nam. But within that sutra, so far you have been augmenting the Nut by seeing the Rasva. Rasva Nadyapo Nut. By seeing only Rasva. This is the first time that you are actually looking at the word Nadi. Rasva Nadyapo Nut. But then you apply Nami. Now when you apply Nami Bahushreyas, you already was Dirgha. Even if you want to replace it with a Dirgha, doesn't matter. You apply Nami and you get the word. बहुश्रेयसी नाम. So while I told you all things are difficult, we have finished and we have five more forms remaining. Chaturthi, Panchami, Shashti, Saptami, and of course the Sambuddhi. But I also want you to note which operation is dependent on the Nadi Savna and which operation is dependent on the Stri affix. Now see, there is a very fine line, and there are several good authors who have written this incorrectly. And so I want you to be careful. For a Nadi, for a word to be Nadi, it has to be a feminine word. For 6168 to apply, it is just not that the word is feminine. It has to end. The word can be anything, technically. But it has to end in the Stri Pratyaya Ni or Ap. But right now, let us stick to Ni. And that is why we are asking two questions. Is it a Nadi? Is it ending in a Stri Pratyaya? In this case, both are yes. But the next word, both won't be yes. The next Prakriya, this for Sambuddhi, we'll do it last. It's simple. Let us finish the main content. An Nadyaha. You have the Anuvartana of Nit. You remember Gherang Niti? This sutra comes after Gherang Niti. Niti, when a Nit affix follows. And so for 4, Chaturthi, Panchami, Shashti, Saptami, when a Nit affix follows, there should be the art augmentation. And so now we have the art augmentation to the Nit affixes. And whenever you have the art augmentation, you will see it next year in Dashagani. You are seeing here now. The sutra which will apply is going to be Atascha. You have to forget everything else. Forget something is, oh, can I apply Adguna? Forget. Can I apply Akaha Savarna Dirgha? Forget. If you have the art, there's Atascha. We have most probably studied it. Atascha came up in this sequence which taught us the Vriddhi Ekadesha. And so in this entire Prakarana of Vriddhi Ekadesha, Adgunaha, Vriddhirechi, Etya, Dharatyutsu, and then Atascha. Atascha has no right context. Of course, Ikoyonachi vowel has to be there, undoubtedly, but otherwise nothing specific. And you will have a vowel after art. So art plus the vowel, and you have Vriddhi Ekadesha. So you get I, A plus As, Aha. You can't apply Akah Savarna Dirgha. You have to go with Atascha. Aha. And so Bahu, Shre, yes. Why? Because eco energy. Let eco energy happen afterwards. No problem. Bahu Shreyasyai. Bahu Shreyasyaha. Bahu Shreyasyaha. And just write it down. One word I'll write down. So that the entire sequence. And Nadya art. Then you have the uh, Parasavarna. So not Parasavarna. Technically Shtunastu, but fine. Not Shtunastu, sorry. Uh, Yaro Nasikyo Nasukova. And Nadya. Art becomes art. The sounds which I have written in blue, final sounds, I, aha, aha. Remember these sounds because all Nadi words will end in these sounds. Bahushreyasya, Bahushreyasyaha. Not Syai, only not Yai as well. Because Yai, the Yakar comes from eco energy. Only I. You will have Yai invariably because you will have eco energy, but still I. Aha, aha. So these were your two sutras. And Nadya Atascha. And then you come go to Saptami Ekvachana, which tells you that for a Nadi word, I'll explain the sutra but finish the Prakriya first. For the Nadi word, the knee has to be replaced with an arm. And atascha will again a plus am will result in am. And so bahu shreyasyam. So there's an additional prakriya where the vibhakti it is replaced, substituted. And then you go with Annadhyaha, Atascha, Ikoyanachi. If we come, if we jump to the Striling section and quickly see Gauri, you see that is also Nadi, Gauryai, Gauryaha, Gauryam, Niram Nadyam Nibhyaha. Here what we studied, everywhere there are Nadhyaha. So Bahu Shreyasi and Gauri, same table. At that time Laghu Varadaraja will not teach you anything. So if you do not want to study Bahu Shreyasi, then use the same sutras and study Gauri. But yes, you can't fit Gauri in my Excel sheet because Gauri is a Striling Shabda. This is Ikaranta Pulling Shabda. So don't write Gauri over here. The sutra. Nye Ram Nadyam Nibhyah. I'll write it. Nye Am. Nye is the Shashti of of Ni. So Ni is replaced with Am. That is what we did. Nye Ram. When Nadyam Nibhyah. Nye Ram Nadyam Nibhyah. For Nadi words, for Abanta words, Ram, Abanta words, and the word Ni or words ending in Ni. Ni Naya, Nayati. Of course, that is Tinganta, but when you come to Subanta, we will see that you have words such as Senani, Gramani. We'll see that. Simply Ni. So for these words, the Ni is replaced with Am. That is what this teaches. One more piece in the jigsaw puzzle. Niram Nadyam Nibhya. 116, we have already done 118, 119. When we finish 117, we will revisit this excellent composition. So here Nye was replaced with Am. In 118, Nye was replaced with Au. And similarly in 119, Nye was replaced with Au. That is why here you got 118 Sakhyau, 119 you got Haro. But here you are getting Gauryam or Bahushreyashyam. Niram Nadyam Nibhya. I left out before that. Just we have studied the sutra Nye Yah, where I told you Nye is the or Nye is the Prathama of Nye. And now I'm saying Nye and I'm saying it is the Shashti of Ni. So in both sutras, Nye is interpreted differently. And Patanjali discusses this. He said, now the language is like that. What can we do? You listen to your teachers. Literally, the first paribhasha, व्याख्यानतो विशेष प्रतिपत्ति न हि संदेहाद लक्षणम, refer to the explanation of the shishtas. For sambuddhi, when a sambuddhi follows,
Mm.
let there be the rasva. And so you get the form bahu, sorry. You get the form bahu shreya si. When? For nadi words. And also for words such as amba and those that are synonymous with amba. Amba means mother. But there is a twist over here. I will explain it. Let's concentrate on nadi. Amba artha nadyo rasvaha. Amba artha nadyo rasvaha. For all these words, amba becomes amba, akka becomes akka, nadi word gauri becomes gauri, bahushreyasi, bahushreyasi. There is rasvatva when a sambuddhi follows. Amba artha nadyo rasvaha. We already know rasvasya guna. We know jasicha. The larger puzzle is also completing. We have done Nirangiti before. Today we have finished Annadhyaha. Once we finish all these sutras, we'll go through the entire sequence. And so you have your table Bahushriyasi. And this is a misprint. You can't have Visarga over here. Please cover it. Do not memorize tables. Study rules. The next word, I said we'll end with this word. But let me quickly take up the next word. It doesn't require a lot of explanation. So so we have done this. Do not go to the right side of the vertical line. Stick here. Only write this. And now we go to Ati Lakshmi. Now Lakshmi is a Nitya Striling Shabda and it will take Nadi Samya. But Ati Lakshmi is a man who has transgressed wealth, who is beyond wealth. And it cannot take Nadi Samya by the Sutra 1.4.3 use Triakhya Nadi. But it can take Nadi Samya by the Vartika Pratamalinga Grahanamcha. And so Ati Lakshmi, we are not looking at the gender of the compound, but the gender of Lakshmi in its original state, which is always feminine, and therefore Ati Lakshmi too, which is the Nadi Savya. And so if you see the Ati Lakshmi table, don't see the entire table, just see what I'm showing. Based on Nadi, we had An Nadyaha, and so we got that I sound, Bahu Shreyasyai, similarly Ati Lakshmiyai, then Ati Lakshmyaha, Ati Lakshmyaha, Ngeram Nadyam Nibhya, Ati Lakshmyam, Ambarthara Nadyo Rasvaha, Ati Lakshmi. Rasvan Nadyapo, Nut Nadi, Nut, Ati Lakshminam. Same table. But Lakshmi doesn't end in the Stri Pratyaya Ni. Lakshmi ends in Dirgha E But that is not the three. They were not one of the three pratyas ngip, ngish, ngin. And so, see the green highlight and the yellow highlight. Yellow highlight is based on the Nadi Savni. We can further color some things yellow based on the Nadi Savnya. And of course, I have not written Sambodhan over here. That is also based on the Nadi Savnya. But of the green highlighted portion, the green highlighted portion where you have 6168 applying. Hal Nyap, it depends on these three affix ni, nip, nish, ngim. Lakshmi doesn't have it. Can I apply 6168? The answer is no. Will the sakar get elided? The answer is no. And the form I will get is with the sakar, and therefore Rutva and Visarga, the Lakshmi. And that is why the Gauri table is different than the Lakshmi table. For Gauri, 6168 applies and you have Gauri, Gauri Prathama. But for Lakshmi, 6168 doesn't apply and therefore you have Lakshmi. Because Lakshmi doesn't end in the Sri Pratyaya. It ends in the Unadi Pratyaya, E, not in the Sri Pratyaya. As I said, we don't know all this. But when we read, we will understand. And so this small point of difference gives you a different form in Prathama Ekvachana. Unfortunately, you are seeing no difference in tables over here because of the misprint in Bahushreyasi. But here, cover the Visarga, and so the Prathama Ekvachana is Bahushreyasi, and in Atilakshmi it is Atilakshmi. Next time we will cross over and then proceed with the other forms which will make things slightly more complicated. But we can at least see the richness of the lexicon and therefore the efforts that Panini had to take. I don't know whether it is the Christmas, whether it is the wedding season. Attendance is quite poor. I hope people rejoin soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you.